Ladies and gentlemen, the following is scheduled for one fall. It is time for That Way Cool Wrestling Show! Hello everybody, welcome to That Way Cool Wrestling Show. My name is Danny J, along with Mad Mark Lindsay.
Hey now.
LeGrand Onslaught Jackson.
What's up?
And filling in for Charles Gregory, who is not necessarily on assignment. He's at a bachelor party all this weekend for his son. So he's living it up in Atlantic City. We have the forefather himself, the founder of the Respect Thy Wrestling Forefathers on Facebook, James Gore. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Before we get started, like I said, you are the founder of Respect Thy Wrestling Forefathers. Explain what that is for our fans, and also how you got into that to even bring that up, and your purpose behind it.
My purpose behind it was to keep alive those wrestlers that have come before us and their legacies, because that's the era where I grew up in,
right,
from the 60s. That's when I first started watching Gorilla Monsoon tag teaming with Killer Kowalski,
right,
where the Grand Wizard used to actually attack people. Some people don't know that. And when he started managing Jimmy Valiant, when Jimmy Valiant turned on Chief J Strongbow, the Grand Wizard stopped attacking his man's opponents while he was managing Jimmy Valiant. I don't know why, but that's when he stopped. And he became the only manager to stop attacking opponents. You know, Blasting and Albano did it, but the Wizard used to do it, but he stopped. So I've seen a lot of things way back when that nobody even knows about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, if you go on Facebook and you look up Respect Thy Wrestling Forefathers, you'll see it's a large group. And James, you were fortunate enough to get a lot of former talent, current talent, to actually be a part of the group. There's a lot of talent that actually is active in the group. So it's not so much that they just like it. There's actually a lot of people that are active. The most active are Bill Apter, Gary Michael Capetta is very active on it, amongst other, like the talent and the fans and stuff like that. But you have a lot of the Samoans on there. And I mean, the list goes on and on, the people that you've got to be on the show. On the Facebook page. Now, when you describe that to them, what is like their impression of it?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that about who's in the group.
Yeah.
I want to make clear that I never hijack anyone in the group. They always have to come and ask for permission. Can I join your group?
Right.
And I make that clear to everybody, including the superstars.
Right.
For example, there's Leilani Kai, her partner
Judy Martin.
Yeah.
Right.
And like you said, a whole bunch of people. And then when I finally do meet them at the conventions, they already know who I am because they see my sign. Oh, there's that guy from Respect. Let's go say hello. So they already know me before we meet, and that's a big mark out point for myself.
Right.
I don't mind marking out to this day. I don't mind marking out. There's no shame in my game when it comes to marking out.
Right. Well, you gotta do what you gotta do. I know
it's my name. So
it's your name.
Yeah, we know I do it.
And a funny marking story. We were at about last year. Was it about last year?
Are we gonna bust someone's balls who's not here?
Who's not here? Yeah.
There's a great mark out story.
It's a great story, and I might have already mentioned it. And I mentioned it in passing in PS shows, but like we were vendors at Icons of Wrestling. In fact, James, you were there that day, and to describe what it is, it's in the old ECW arena, and think of vendors.
It's like a convention, like a baseball card store, but you had wrestlers who were selling autographs, shirts and stuff.
And merchandise and what have you.
And you got to interact, you didn't have to... Now, some of the superstars you had to pay money and wait in a long line, like Sting and Bret Hart. But you could actually walk up to the table, interact with your favorite superstars of present and past.
Yeah.
A great environment. I recommend it for anybody if it ever comes your way.
And it's so, like you said, it's so close-knit. Like, you're literally rubbing elbows with everybody, new and old. Because he gets Tim Embler, who runs that. He's actually down in New Orleans now because I believe he said he's got fourth row at WrestleMania.
Awesome.
The guy gets WrestleMania tickets like ringside all the time. God bless him, he can do it. But he does a great job with that, and he packs the house with talent. And the one year we were there, you know, LeGrand and Charles and Mark and I are at the table, and we're doing Facebook Live videos throughout the thing, and we're next to Shane Douglas and Kevin Sullivan, and we're next to Lady Blossom.
We had the Steiner brothers.
We had the Steiner brothers directly across. Mm-hmm. We had the Demolition right next to them. So you can imagine, and I'm talking within like a few steps away. So we're really right in the mix of it. And Harlem Heat was just off to the right. So I said, you know what? I want to get Harlem Heat to do an intro for the show, and I want to do an interview with Booker T. So I sent Charles over, because his legs were shaking and stuff like that. I said, Charles, do me a favor, go over there and see if Booker T's available to do an interview. Okay. Right, gets up. Dolph Ziggler. You know? Charles, see, you're making a face. There's a running joke. Charles is secretly married to Dolph Ziggler. That is like his love of interest. And unfortunately, Cindy Gregory just has no idea.
He's vacant.
He's vacant. Right.
Charles Gregory is vacant.
So he goes over, but I watch him doing this, and he buttons up. We have That Way Cool Wrestling Show T-shirts to show that we're not fans, that we're actually a vendor, you know, that type of thing. And he buttons up his shirt and covers up his thing, and he gets in line with the rest of the kids that were getting autograph signings. And I'm watching, I'm like, he's taking awful long. Did he ask him or not? And I'm looking. So I get over there, and I see him, and he's getting pictures taken with Harlem Heat. I said, oh, did you, I said, in between all your marking, did you ask him about the interview? I no, brother, I didn't have a chance to you know, you're talking about getting an interview. Blah, blah. I said, get out of my way. I walk right up to him. I said, Book, would you be able to do an interview in about 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Sure, brother, no problem. Okay, thank you. I said, that's how you do it. And I sat back down. So that was my marketing story for Charles, since he's not here. And if he was here, he'd be like, shut up, I can fight. But that was a big thing. We had it's by the time we're recording this, and I don't want to really get into it, but it's WrestleMania weekend. So it's a big weekend for wrestling. We just saw the Hall of Fame pass by, and by the time we're recording this, the rest of the weekend hasn't gone through yet, because it's not going to air till Monday or Tuesday. So we're going to have, obviously, recaps of the WrestleMania weekend in an upcoming episode, just not in the ones that you're going to hear here. But what I wanted to do is a couple things. There's a couple things out there that were real exciting to me, at least in the last week or two. One thing I saw, and mainly on YouTube, which is now becoming a staple of finding new stuff. YouTube, obviously, being a free network for all intents and purposes. You know, you don't need to get a network deal to be exposed, which is nice.
Right, and it's a free network that is available on all platforms. Like, you can have a PS4 and Xbox One.
Amazon Fire
TV. It's an app that you can download and you can watch all your content. So.
Right, which is fantastic. And Mark, you said it many times. It's one of those things where, you know, it's becoming more norm to watch TV in general through these apps. Mm-hmm. And so wrestling is evolving to that, which I think is fantastic.
Are you going to mention BN? Is that where this is heading? MLW?
I think we might be.
Okay.
So what I found was nice. And now there's a lot of like indies out there that are doing stuff. There's National Wrestling League, which it's out of Kansas City. Very good presentation. Talent, so. It's up and coming, you know, from what you see. But they have a very good presentation, the way it looks and everything. And you know, I like the pages because I want to keep up on what's going on there to see if anybody goes in there, you know, that type of thing. Much like an ROH, where it's like an indie fed that starts to get larger talent in, so on and so forth. And I see something that I thought was National Wrestling League just by glancing, and I see it's Major League Wrestling. Now, Major League Wrestling, I sent an email out to everybody. I said, check this out, because it was cool on a couple different aspects. The main thing was that brought me into it is that Tony Schiavone, who is, you know, everybody has their favorite commentator he was mine. Out of everybody, he was my childhood of wrestling because I was so engulfed in the NWA. To listen to him and David Crockett, do matches. Tony Schiavone was my voice, and then obviously going through the Nitro years and stuff like that. So Tony Schiavone signed a small deal with this small company to do the commentary. Not lead, I think he's the secondary, he's a color commentator with another guy, Rich somebody or other, and forgive me, I don't remember the guy's last name, because it wasn't important, because I was marking out to hear Tony Schiavone, you know what I mean? But what it was is that it brought back such a sound, like if you closed your eyes, you were listening to old school wrestling again, which was phenomenal. It just, the commentator, a lot of people don't realize how much that brings to wrestling because of the fact that's what you're hearing. You're watching a match, but they're telling the story. And the way Schiavone presents it, and he presented this Major League Wrestling just as if we were watching WCW. And that was really an awesome thing. There's a thing about DJing that they say no matter if you have 50 people in the room or 250 people in the room, make it sound like there's 250 people in the room because you bring in the excitement. And that's what Schiavone did to this show. The show itself, though, they're doing a lot like, which is kind of cool with Impact Wrestling, your favorite program, Mark. They do a lot
it needs to die. Impact needs to die.
They do a lot of indie release. They're showcasing a lot of indie. So on this Major League Wrestling show, which was like a 2.5 hour show, it's Road to the Belt, I think it's called. You'll see ACH from ROH versus Austin Aries, which was a great match. You'll see Sami Callihan, who more and more I'm starting to like. I'm not into Sami Callihan. I think I'm not into Sami Callihan because of OVE, because I don't like them at all, and there's nothing making me like them for some reason. But Sami Callihan, I was watching. He did this like Falls Count Anywhere hardcore match on this show, and it reminded me of the Bunkhouse Stampede for some reason. Like I was like, this is a guy that if we had the Bunkhouse Stampede today, this would be one of my favorites to win. This kind of match, you know what I mean? It just was like up his alley. So it brought back a lot of nostalgia for me, and the talent was very good. Laurel Van Ness was on there.
Matt Riddle.
Matt Riddle against a guy that's coming up, Jeff Cobb, I believe his name is, who reminds me of Michael Elgin.
Which kind of brings me to my point. I was saving this for on air. MLW seems to have a lot of promise, has a lot of potential, but let's be honest, this is going to be the next talent that will be rated by Triple H, William Regal, and NXT,
everything will be.
WWE. So as long as they find their own little niche, they can hopefully be successful, hopefully be a viable option for fans like us to watch and support. Let's be realistic that this is going to be the next, because it's only a matter of time before Matt Riddle is signed by WWE. He is a tremendous talent.
Yes.
And it's not just the Matt Riddle's the name I'm going to mention, but there's so many other ACH.
Yeah.
There are so many other talents that are going. Will Ospreay. These are talents that will be signed down the road because. And in another show, we'll probably talk about things that don't happen anymore.
Yes.
The indie talent is so big on WWE's radar now because they realize that they have to prepare for 5 and 10 years down the road. So
right.
it really is different now than it was before. And these talents are going to make their names now for MLW and hopefully become big superstars 5 and 10 years down the road.
Well, and you make a very good point. And the thing is, though, much like, and I'm gonna relate it back to DJing. When we go into do public events and stuff like that, a lot of times a bar or an establishment will say, well, "What kind of following do you have?" And we're going to relate this to exactly what you just said. And we'll say it's not so much about the following; it's about the place itself. Because if I have a following and I bring X amount of people to your establishment, and then for whatever reason our contract ends and I leave, those people are coming with me. What did it do other than the short-term aspect? It didn't give you anything but that little short-term thing, and now you have to build from scratch again. we always say that you want your place to be the place to be, and then I'm an added attraction to say, oh yeah, I love that place, and by the way, they have so and so or this guy or that guy. So in the sense of, like you're saying, guys like Ospreay, Matt Riddle eventually being signed, absolutely, but we want MLW to be a place where it's like, well, yeah, even if those guys move on, let's face it, back in the day, didn't they do that? Mm-hmm. Then we have guys move from NWA to WWE and back again, and so on and so forth. It's just, you want to be like, oh, well, yeah, that's good for him. He went over there. But this place is still so good, and they still have so many other people. Now my attention is going to be drawn to somebody else, and somebody else, and so on and so forth. So that's really what they want to build to is, and it's a good thing to say, not to bring in the legends. Now how we always said, like TNA did that in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Let's bring in all these people, and then try and get that an instant push. What did it do?
Yeah, but
once they left,
you were sacrificing the current talent to put over the legends, and
right, and then it's sacrificed in a big way. LeGrand, you still here?
I'm here.
Okay,
he's making sure we stay on topic.
I don't see him. That's.
Are you saying I'm blocking him? Are you saying I'm fat?
No, I'm just saying he's completely out of the room. That's the way it is, folks. We're in a closet. That's what's happening here. Now, James, you, because I want to get you, because you're a guest on the show, and I want to get your input on this. When you see these young little feds coming up, I've said it, and not in the aspect of old school, like you and the rest of us actually realized. I said territories are coming back, but not in the way that we realize or remember. Because now you have people that are saying, well, you know what? I can't compete with WWE, but I can at least have, like you said, my own little niche. I'm going to do my thing locally here, and I'm going to do my thing locally there. And people, and these stars that are not currently signed to an exclusive contract, like for example, an Impact lets them do all these individual bookings, because otherwise, if they say no, we want you to stay here, they're going to leave. You know what I mean? So let's keep them as happy as possible. So territories, in an odd way, in a new modified form, are coming back, I believe. And it gives you something else to watch. Now, when you're watching wrestling, what are you looking for when you see something other than the norm, like WWE or something like that? What makes you stay in there and fully watch it?
What makes me stay in there and fully watch is how the performers carry themselves. Mm-hmm. From the entrance to getting in the ring, and how they start their match, how they're telling the story,
right.
Do they move fluidly with their moves? Just basically, how good they are and how good they are in their match.
Right.
Are they working together, to give a good outcome? And if not, I'm there to say that they didn't do it. They
right.
either did or they didn't do it.
Now, are you a fan of any particular style? And let me explain that a little further. The reason I say that is because what you'll see now, especially on Facebook, and you'll notice it because you monitor the Facebook page and all, they always have a glimpse of somebody who, two stars who do a spot, and it's exactly what it is. It's a spot of enormous acrobatic ability and just an amazing thing, and it looks.
The traditionalist is waking up.
Oh, there we go. See? Yeah, there we go. That's exactly.
Because I know exactly what you're talking. You're talking about that video of Ospreay and Ricochet, right?
Was that the one that was recent?
Recent? It was.
There's a lot of them. That's
and
the most
Ricochet,
recent one.
the opening one, and I loved LeGrand's comment was, "I'm more of a traditionalist." I marked out for that comment.
Yeah, and that's my point too. It's like, it does it not look like this is rehearsed? As good as it is,
right?
You know what I mean? Doesn't it look like it? And to me, it draws something away from it.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know what
I
I mean?
agree. There's obviously athletic ability.
Yes.
But am I going to be flipping around if I'm in a fight at 52nd and Market Street? No, I'm not.
No, I would love to see that. If I could see, because fans, when you see, we're gonna put pictures up. James Gore is an athletic god. I'm telling you right now. And to see him flip around would be phenomenal.
Yeah,
No, but you know, it's one of those things where, you know, yes, it's a short term, right? Like, you're looking at this and saying, yeah, this was all beautiful, but, and I'm going to date myself right here, but it brings me back to Circus of the Stars. You know what I mean? Like, this looks like, right, LeGrand's shaking his head, right? Yeah. This is for the kids. Kids love that shit. I mean, let's face it.
Wu-Tang's for the kids.
Right? That's right. Exactly.
Look, I'm not to cut you off or anything.
No, please cut me off. I haven't heard you all the whole show.
This is going to be my first entry into the show today.
Welcome aboard.
Well,
We're introduced as LeGrand Onslaught Jackson.
Well, I make anybody angry probably, but I don't care. Like I said on many occasions, I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to professional wrestling. I'm all about the acrobatics. I'm all about the super gymnastic, high flying, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But I think it's oversaturated, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You got too many guys who, for sake of actually telling the story in a way that is believable, are, all right, we're going to go in here, we're going to do 63 flips in 2 minutes. Like, dude, really?
I would be tired. I'm tired watching them. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's a lot.
Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful thing to see.
It is.
It's an art form within itself. It's just like me watching that is like most guys watching lucha. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. Most guys don't get into it. There's a crowd for it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a beautiful thing when it's done well.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and I like to see it. Just not all the time.
Well, you know what? You make a good point now when you bring up lucha, because it's really that type of style that they're migrating. You know, now go back to WCW when they had a lot of luchadors, and they did some amazing matches, but it didn't look like it was planned like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It really didn't look like it was planned. It looked like everybody was reacting to what this guy's doing, and now I gotta react. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I'm waiting for this particular spot.
It wasn't as pretty.
Right. Right.
See, everything back then, you could do the flips, you could do the flying, but it had a grittier look to it.
Yes.
It didn't look like it was so super spit and polish that it was ole.
Yeah.
Right. I
Right.
mean, I hate to say it, but it's
No, but you're absolutely right.
And when I watch Psychosis,
Yes.
when I watch Super Crazy, when I watch
Juventud. Yeah.
I was so into it because it looked like this move that they're about to pull out, no matter how many flips and twists and whatever, it was going to be super devastating.
Right.
And the little guy, big guy, whoever, you're gonna have to admit that this is hurting.
Right.
Nowadays, with a lot of the things, by no means do I want to see the boys get hurt.
Right. Well, that's the other thing too. Right. Exactly.
But I just want to see it to where there's a possibility that, yes, this connection means something.
And you know what, though? Doesn't it seem like when we watch these vids and we see them and we see a move and we see a spot and this and that, the spots are growing longer and longer and longer, and it doesn't seem almost like the Monday Night Wars where we had to top this, top that.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to make it more and more and more, and it's one thing to sit there and say this guy's amazing, and all I had to see was one move,
Yeah.
2 moves that the guy that his opponent would be like, oh, holy shit, what's happening? You know what I mean? Like, you don't get that when I'm watching this. It's like, if that guy didn't know this was going to happen, this other move would never take off. Like, you know, you almost can sense that, like a dance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's go to Dirty Dancing. If Patrick Swayze wasn't paying attention, when she ran up, she would have flew off into the table somewhere. Right? You know what I mean? So
or the best one.
To the corner.
What would have happened to Indiana Jones if his gun wasn't loaded with that guy with the samurai sword?
right.
And then his gun.
Right.
Well, you saw what happened when
That's
he
true.
went for the gun
The
and it
following
wasn't in the
movie.
holster.
That was the following movie.
But, you know, I mean, that's the whole thing. And it comes down to, like you said, on the back end, it comes down to safety.
Right.
And, you know, a lot of these guys, I think, are jeopardizing a lot of stuff to be noticed. And it seems like it's like, either they feel that they have to do that, or maybe they do, quote unquote, have to do it to be noticed.
What I call that is high spots for no reason.
Exactly. And like I said, I'd rather the spots be more condensed, and I'd rather them be more one-sided. You know, if you want to showcase both people, have him react differently down the road, you know what I mean, or something like that. To have these guys going back and forth to a stalemate, it sounds like a cool thing, but like you said, it looks too stale. It looks very rehearsed.
Right, and that kind of brings me. Well, it's a similar same chapter, different page. Every John Cena 5-knuckle shuffle, the belly to back drop, 5. You know.
Well, you can say that about WWE in general, as far as their big stars.
Exactly, they have the Superman punch, and it's always like, oh my God, here comes the 3, 4, 5 moves.
5 moves to doom.
Well, yeah, I wasn't gonna say that because I'm actually respecting Cena now. He's stepping back a little bit. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like choreographed. How many years have we been watching Cena dominate the profession? You would think from a storyline point that WWE creative would say, you know what? Somebody's going to find the reverse to that. Someone's going to know what's coming and stop it. Or, no, we haven't evolved to that yet. We're still watching it. We're still watching the same moves.
You're dealing with a new breed of writers with no creativity. Let's face it. We've watched Hogan back in the day get hit by everything but an aircraft carrier. Then he starts to shake, and then nothing works.
And nobody once went out of the ring to let him cool down.
No.
That's all they had to do. Let him get his what was it? Adrenaline up, and then what happens when you have adrenaline and nothing happens? It goes away.
You get limp.
Right.
Right.
So why didn't Ric Flair or Kurt Hennig or Paul Orndorff roll out of the ring and let that adrenaline go to waste? No, that was part of the match.
Ultimate Warrior did move when he went for the leg drop.
That's right.
Oh, hey, there you go. You learned.
And that's what I'm saying. You have that one person who can actually look, man, we're going to do this. Everybody knows it's coming, this, that, and the other, da-da-da-da-da. We know we got to change up.
Right. Well, that's why guys like DDP, Orton, when they come in with the RKO / Diamond Cutter out of nowhere. That's realistic. That is inviting to me, because I'm like, yeah, like there was no setup for this.
Exactly.
Like, holy shit, man, he just pulled that out of anywhere. There's always those memes with I love them, with Randy Orton, where he's RKOing everybody. He's RKOing everybody. And I'm like, that's the way it is in wrestling. I'm like, that's great. And like you said, there's got to be a point of and I don't want to use the word fake either, because we're workers. You know what I mean? Like, but like, because it's not fake. There is a huge difference. I still have pain from stuff that I've done, so that's not fake. But it's one of those things where it's not realistic for someone to go through the 5-knuckle shuffle and be able to pull it off. My go-to all the time, how about it, is the worm. I cannot stand the worm. It takes 20 minutes to get through the whole dance and caboodle and stuff like that. That guy should have been in the airport by the time he gets over to him to do the chop. It's just, and I realize it's for children and stuff like that. And if you remember, NWA, you didn't have shit like that.
No, not at all.
You didn't have shit like that at all. And
AWA either.
There were guys that, in a lot of cases, wouldn't even use their finishing maneuver to win the match. A roll up, a schoolboy, whatever, small package, using the ropes. How many times did they just get the win, which is the point of the story? I need to get the win. You know what I mean? And it goes back to, once again, like, to me, WWE, it's very hard for me to watch. And I know, like, we a lot of times we're on stance. Like, Mark's a real pro WWE guy. I'm not.
I don't think I'm a pro WWE guy.
You're very
no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
You're very pro.
No, I'm not.
Like,
what I am is I realize that as much as we can bitch and complain about things not being the way that they used to be, I choose to appreciate the things that are good. There's a lot of good things right now about wrestling.
5 episodes ago, Mark said, you know what? Last season, I really was pro everything, and now I'm where Dan is, and I really hate it.
I hate a lot of the stuff.
Mark's
but
on medication,
I do. No, I'm not. But I do like some of it. I don't like others. And I'm not who WWE's catering to. I'm who NXT may be catering to, but I'm not who WWE's catering to. So I would rather, instead of bitch and moan and come off like a disgruntled employee, I got screwed over and I don't want. No, I'd rather just talk about the good things. I mean, we talk every single week, and I'm going to mention his name now.
That's why we're talking about MLW.
Well, there you go. Hopefully that could be coming up. But I mean, I'm one of the guys who's really turned on to Miz. Here's a guy who. And we say it all the time, so I won't repeat it, but he worked his ass off to get where he is now.
Yes.
And last night, during that, the other day, during the Hall of Fame speech, when Jeff Jarrett was talking, he basically singled out Miz, saying, "You're making the IC title relevant again." And you saw Miz's face, was like, wow, we're 10 years ago, I hated the Miz.
Right. I didn't like him.
Doesn't deserve it. Doesn't what's he doing here?
That's what the locker room felt.
Right, the locker room. Right. Didn't Bradshaw shit in his shoes or something, boots or something? Yes. There's a lot of stories backstage, but he learned and he stuck with it, and he became.
I am so. He
became a leader, and he became what?
I'm so glad I was liked in the locker room. I wouldn't be able to do any of that shit.
Well, I don't know. Charles wasn't here to.
Charles, don't let him fool you. Charles loved me, but we're gonna go back. We're going to talk about more of this. We're going to talk about the NWA in just a few minutes. We're going to step away and pay the bills, and we'll be back on That Way Cool Wrestling Show right after this.
Since 1974, Cannon Entertainment has been serving the tri-state area, providing professional musical entertainment to thousands of our customers. Cannon Entertainment doesn't just play music. We are professional musical entertainers. We have personality, talent, and each DJ has a minimum of 7 years experience. We are especially trained for events like the one you're planning. We will customize your event to make it everything you want, and we'll give you our many years of experience to make it even more. Don't gamble with your affair. Be sure to choose the best. Cannon Entertainment. Check us out on the web at cannonentertainment.com. Call us now.
That's right. You can dial 610-449-8908. You can talk to Rob and book your event or private party today. We're in the Cannon Entertainment Studios. It's That Way Cool Wrestling Show. And today we are talking about a lot of different things. We have special guest in here is James Gore. Who is the founder of Respect Thy Wrestling Forefathers. Once again, thank you for being on the show today. And we talked about Major League Wrestling, which is coming up with Tony Schiavone, and it's a real nice thing, and it's leading me into something else, which unfortunately there's a lack of information I have to talk about, and that's the reason why I want to bring this up, is the NWA, Billy Corgan. His NWA, which at this point in April is supposed to be the month that things are debuting and whatnot, and it's like a lot of the heat fell off. I don't know if you noticed that, because I'm trying to watch it. I'm trying to keep up on it, because we were with bated breath. You and I, LeGrand, both said, I can't wait for this to come out. If he's going to do what he's going to do, etc. And it seems like things fell off. And the only...
Can I speak on that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. As a fan of not only pro wrestling, I'm also a music fan. The original lineup of Smashing Pumpkins is currently on tour. So, I don't know anything. I don't have any quote-unquote inside information. But I would imagine that going out on tour with the original lineup of Smashing Pumpkins is a money maker.
Sure.
Which will enable him to possibly get a nice payday and then go forward with his other ventures.
Sure, because he's playing it himself.
Right. So exactly. I think yes, when this first NWA news came out back in the fall, April was the time that, and it would have made sense at WrestleMania. How many promotions are down in New Orleans right now for WrestleMania weekend? Exactly. So it would have made sense for April, but you know what? If he's gonna do what he has to do, because he's also a musician, from what I know about him and read about him on the internet, he's a very keen businessman. He ran, Guerrilla Wrestling, or what was it?
I forget what it was called, but Guerrilla
out of Chicago. Not Guerrilla. I can't think of it. I'm sorry.
Right.
But he ran a promotion out of Chicago, an independent promotion. He was friends with Paul Heyman and knew how ECW worked behind the scenes. So I'm not losing confidence. maybe the timeline changes, but I'm still willing to give him a chance. And was it Nick Aldis? Is that how?
Nick Aldis? Yes.
Nick Aldis. He is defending that NWA title. What I don't understand, and maybe James can help me out here, is Austin Idol. Okay, here's Austin Idol. Now, growing up in Philadelphia, I never saw Memphis wrestling. We never saw Memphis wrestling.
Yeah, we didn't
on
have
TV.
access to it. No.
We had to rely on the Actor magazines to give us the news from Memphis and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 3 months late. So like I'm aware of the name Austin Idol, but I can't tell you I've ever seen any of his matches.
Well,
but
it depends on how far back in Philly you go. Austin Idol used to wrestle under the name Iron Mike McCord, and he was managed by Lou Albano.
Mm-hmm.
And in the WWF, when it was territorial, he challenged Pedro Morales for the world title. He had several matches with Morales,
Right.
and also matches with Chief J. Strongbow, who helped him along the way. When Strongbow died, you heard Austin Idol giving a lot of props to Chief J. Strongbow because he helped him on earlier in his career. So that entire time, when Austin Idol came about in Memphis, I said, "Oh, there's Iron Mike McCord."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know. So,
but would it be fair to say that the bigger part of his career was in Memphis with Lawler and Dundee? And
absolutely, yes.
So I didn't get to see that as much as I got to read about it, So like I'm not familiar, but from what I've been, because now with YouTube I'm able to watch Nick Aldis and Austin Idol cut a promo on House of Hardcore I think last month. It cracked me up. It was so yes. Here I am. I'm 41 years old. I'm a big wrestling fan. My friends jokingly call me the wrestling almanac because of the stupid stuff that sticks in my head that I remember. But Austin Idol.
You say you're 41?
41. So yeah, it was a little bit before my time.
Youngster.
The Iron Mike McCord was a little bit before my time. But I'm aware of him. I'm familiar with his name, but not really. But now I get to see him on a whole different. Now he's a manager of Nick Aldis, and he is so arrogant and so everything he said had truth to it.
Yes.
And they're the good kind of heels that you like.
By the way, Austin Idol was known as the universal heartthrob. Don't forget
Yes.
that part.
So I'm sorry.
Just so you know.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
All I needed was the older guys to tell me what's going on.
Damn right.
Now the only thing I have the problem is that the only real avenue that I'm seeing Nick defend the NWA title on is Championship Wrestling of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And not,
House of Hardcore?
right, House of Yeah, no, I haven't watched a show yet because that's only on Twitch, right? I guess I can
On
get
Twitch,
YouTube.
you can watch YouTube. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
But the scenario being, though, that a majority of his exposure is happening through that Hollywood Championship Wrestling because remember when Billy Corrigan bought the NWA and figured out that a lot of people were running roughshod using the NWA license, he said, well, franchise is now done. Either you're on board with this or you're not an NWA. And I guess Championship Wrestling of Hollywood's like, all right, we're cool. We don't want to pull our shit, whatever. And it's not a bad production if you watch it. But the only problem I have with that is that it's really not up to par in comparison to, I believe, like National Wrestling League, ROH. Now, ROH is a step above a lot of these guys. But in that sense of an independent promotion that is highly visible, it's one of those things where the surrounding talent pales in comparison highly though. And I don't want to disrespect any of my wrestling brothers, but there's levels to where you're at. I mean, it's just, I was at a level that was not at this person's level and vice versa and so on and so forth, and I know where I stood, and it wasn't up here, you understand, because I didn't wrestle that long. But the thing was, as a fan, as someone who's, I produced wrestling videos and stuff like that, there's certain things I used to look for spots and so on and so forth. And I'm watching a very, very competent champion in Nick Aldis perform, and he's great in the ring. He's really great in the ring. He grew a lot from when I first saw him as that gladiator Magnus in TNA and so on and so forth. But you then surround him with other matches where you got guys that are delaying spots, that are like they're sending somebody and they're kind of like just staring at the guy and waiting for, they're waiting for their IQs. and they're just not at that TV level yet, and it kills the whole production for me. I'm not going to get in. I'm going to pull a little Grant here, and I'm not going to say names, but he's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. There's somebody I know who will go out and buy the most expensive lighting in the world, and will buy the most expensive equipment in the world, but then will never change his mental strategy. Strategy?
Is that the word you're trying to say? Strategy?
I was challenging.
Jesus Christ!
I was challenging my inner Bugs Bunny. I was challenging my inner Bugs Bunny. Strategy. He was.
Tragedy.
Wow!
It's a tragedy, is what it is.
Yes.
But won't change that mental say of saying, all right, this is how I'm going to put the show down. And thinks that this exorbitant amount of new equipment and stuff like that is going to save the day. And at the end of the day, it does not. And I think that's the same thing I see with Championship Wrestling in Hollywood. It's in Hollywood, so you have a standard just because of the name of where you're located. So you got to put out something nice. And then I believe they're obviously on some local TV. I'm sure.
They have to be.
Yeah, they have to be, right? But at the end of the day, if I was watching it on TV, this is not like, and granted, we can't compare anything to 30 years ago. I mean, we always say that and we sound like a bunch of old heads, but that's realistically, it's what it is. Back then, when it was on TV, this was the cream of the crop, period, of what you were watching. This independent stuff, and I produced great independent shows, and I produced horrible independent shows. And it's just based on what the promoter's trying to get over. Is there any kind of, thought pattern behind, is there any kind of future? Is there anything going on? What is your end goal? And you can tell when they have one and they don't. But the problem is with Championship Wrestling of Hollywood is that they definitely have an end goal. They have something that they're trying to build. But the talent, I don't know if maybe they're just not being held to certain standards, because I would think if you performed in a certain manner, obviously in the WWE, they would come out to you and say, hey, you know what? You're going to have to go down to OVW back then, or whatever. Whatever the case is now. Go back down to the plant, go to NXT and hone the skill, or whatever. We're going to take you off TV because you're damaging the product.
Or
right.
What they could do, like in the case what they did with Cesaro to help build up my buddy Sami Zayn, was they put Cesaro down to NXT to help make Sami Zayn elevate his career.
Elevate him, yeah. Put him with somebody, but once again, put him down in a lower level so that you're not really.
Yeah, but Cesaro was
not
still
Cesaro per se. Yeah,
he was still competing on Raw and
so Cesaro wasn't the issue. Right.
They wanted to have Sami Zayn beat a main roster talent to elevate
him. Right.
So
exactly. So it wasn't something on Cesaro. It was more on Sami Zayn. Right.
To kind of change what you're saying a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the not regional. What did you say? The smaller the smaller promotions are
doing kind of territory.
Territories. Yeah. Thank you, territories. You have New Japan. You have Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor kind of. I don't want to say I stopped watching.
It fell off.
When Cody Rhodes lost to Dalton Castle, is kind of where I lost it. Because you and I talked about this last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Dalton Castle was a very interesting talent.
I like him.
Okay.
I really do.
But to me, Ring of Honor has kind of fallen off with the lack of the Cody Rhodes made Ring of Honor interesting for well over a year.
Yes.
And it hasn't been the same.
Well, it seems like to me, like when they lost a lot of their big talent, like your Adam Coles, Riley and Fish, ACH, I don't think is Moose. He was I'm not a big fan of Moose.
Yeah, Moose and War Machine, right?
Yeah. So. But Michael Elgin is probably the biggest, and the Briscoes, obviously. I do like the Briscoes, but Michael Elgin I was a big fan of. And I'm like, this is a guy I like to watch, just wrestle. You know what I mean? And when they lost a lot of those people, and you have Dalton Castle, who's like the next big thing, I guess, coming up. And like you're saying, bringing in a Cody Rhodes, you were having a scenario where they, we're now was like a big amount of people. Like, I want to see everybody on this roster. Now I only want to see this many people on the roster. And I think the show itself, despite how good ROH is too small to sacrifice or cut off the fat in that sense. And not that it's their decision; these guys are moving on. But that's in my estimate that I'm not really following ROH like I used to. I think by far, and I think everybody here would agree, New Japan is really, if you want to watch wrestling and just be excited the entire time you're watching it, you're going to watch that.
Well, to kind of finish my, because this is where I'm kind of heading, and it's fantasy. Okay, so I'm not trying to fantasy book anything, but I would love to have like the NWA kind of work with Ring of Honor, New Japan, have it all be under the one umbrella. Like, still have Ring of Honor be their own entity, have New Japan be their own entity, but kind of have a lot like one umbrella that covers them all. Because I really feel that at the downside of having so many options and territories, you only have certain levels of talent, like you mentioned. You can have. There are certain guys that are groomed to be mid-card. They're not meant to be main event. You have people that are groomed to be main event, and if they go past a certain lower tier, they're not taken as seriously as they were before. Right. So you're kind of dangerous with how you book certain talent. It would be nice if there was one larger umbrella, not to compete with WWE, because you're not going to compete with them, but just to have the Cody Rhodes be able to wrestle for the NWA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, and all kind of interchange with each other, so they can all kind of, kind of like they did it in the 80s. Go back, AWA and NWA. They didn't really join promotions. They had co-promoted shows.
Yes.
And they still had their separate world champions, but they had co-promoted shows. It'd be nice to have that.
Think of it like this, and this is actually good that James is here, because he's bringing a more traditional aspect to this. LeGrand and I and you are both, like the same eras and all. For me, if you go back to AWA had the what was it called? Super Clash, right? Which was Super Clash was AWA, NWA, and I think CML was a part of that.
Maybe, Mexican,
the Puerto Rico, where Carlos Colon. So it was a big cross promotion super card of wrestling. Didn't matter who it was, and years ago, and LeGrand will remember this. I helped produce and I filmed Break the Barrier. Right. Remember Break the Barrier, which was a number of independent promotions having a key match on the card. It was like 10 different.
It was a bunch of promotions. We got 10 matches lined up.
Yeah.
So we could have basically.
It was like a championship match. I think it was every one, right? It was
everything was championship.
Yeah.
It was like a really good show.
It was opened up by Luthez. It was opened up by. There was a shoot interview with Shane Douglas. I think we did that in ECW Arena.
Yes.
If I remember. But in that type of fashion, you're like, oh, this is the accumulation of everything that a wrestling fan was. Because when we were kids, how about it? We covered everything.
Yeah.
We didn't just watch WWF. We didn't just watch NWA. We had the magazines, like you said. I heard of guys like Carlos Colon. Never got to watch him back then. Watch him now, where you can have access to footage or whatever.
Right.
TNT, which was what's his face?
Savio
Vega. And then there was then you learn about the Tasmanian devil guy. That was the younger Laurinaitis. No, was he? Tasmanian, or was he Hawks? Hawk's brother, one of them.
Terminator.
The Terminator. Yeah. Terminator was it was a younger Laurinaitis, right? He was Joe's brother.
Well, I got to you'll get an appreciation for this.
Right.
One of the after mags, I think it was the Wrestler, had a thumbs up, thumbs down section, and every month they would have like 4 talents that did something good and got recognized, and then 4 talents that did something horrible. And of course, this is total kayfabe,
Right.
And Sir Oliver Humperdinck in Florida did something, and then by the time the magazine comes out, he's managing Bam Bam Bigelow and Paul Orndorff, and I'm like, oh, he's a good guy now. I know nothing about this guy.
yes.
And then here I find out that he's one of the most ruthless managers and wrestlers down in Florida. I'm like, I had no idea what was going on.
And you know what was cool back then? Right back then when that happened, especially when the Bam Bam Bigelow, the the run for the manager. You remember they did that little thing? Gordon Soley had a show on, I forget what channel, but he ran over everything. And it was such
every
a great,
promotion, yeah.
Every promotion.
And Joe Pedicino, too. With
yes. And it was cool. And that was my introduction into Gordon Soley.
I think it was called Superstars of Wrestling. And it was like a 2-hour show
and
that covered every promotion.
It just covered, but it wasn't but it was no wrestling.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It was just them
talking,
giving you the
breakdown of everything.
Breakdown. And what a great thing that was back then. And that's how we do. We put Mike Tenay in that. I listen to Mike Tenay. I'd watch Mike Tenay do that.
We kind of are that, though. You know?
It's us. We're doing that. Nobody cares.
Still real to be, damn it.
Yeah, just listen. But my thing was, and I've said this multiple times, and I think James, you'll appreciate this. My thing was WrestleMania, and I don't want to use the granddaddy of them all because that's a Starrcade thing, and I will be loyal to NWA for the rest of my life.
Starrcade. There's two granddaddies. If you're lucky,
right? Well, that's true. This is the maternal versus the paternal, right? Okay.
And only one's around.
Granddaddy, and you got Peepaw.
You got Peepaw. Right? But WrestleMania being the thing of the year. This is obviously, we've always said it. This is where everything shuts off and restarts. It's the restart point. It's like the Big Bang. In comic books, it's like when you have that one critical event that changes everything, and that's how we got the New 52. And in the Infinity War, we got the Infinity Wars coming up. It's going to reset everything. The Reality Stone's going to just redo everything, and that's what WrestleMania is.
Wait, you spoiled this for me now? I have to watch Infinity War?
No, you do.
Wait, what?
Figure out what WrestleMania is going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
Wait a second. So I don't have to watch. I don't have to watch Infinity War because it's all going to reset anyway.
It's going to reset. The whole thing.
Spoiler alert next time, man. Come on.
Yeah, don't bother. Get it on Cody. No, but what it is my thing was make WrestleMania, like exactly what the name is. If you remember the first WrestleMania, they brought people that weren't WWF stars in. Matt Bourne wrestled on the first WrestleMania. My memory's going blank, and I know there was other
SD Jones versus King Kong Bundy in 9 seconds squash.
But they were
David San Martino.
But they were there.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, they brought in other people,
George Wells in WrestleMania 2. He was a big name back down in the Mid-South, and
there you go.
And
for that one thing, and that was it. And it was just that. And
then vomits. That was.
But make WrestleMania. Make WrestleMania. This is the thing where everybody wants to go to. And just for 1 year, the money would be phenomenal. At WrestleMania, you have an NWA champion defend his title.
WrestleMania is like, what, 3 hours now?
No, 7 hours.
7 hours. You got pre-show.
All right, so you got 7 hours of WrestleMania. It is feasible that for 2 hours, you could do dream matches, wrestling dream matches, where the guy from ROH fights a guy from NOAH, from wherever. You can do that for 2 of the 7 hours.
Right, and still be interested. That's my point.
And it's still under Vince's banner.
Yeah, he's making.
He gets all the credit for
He's
it.
getting money anyway. Right, exactly.
This is basically a throwaway, and it works out for him in the long run.
Right.
Because it exposes his audience to newer talent that more than likely he's going to pick up later.
How did we not say that Impact is not doing any kind of threat to WWE?
No.
ROH is not doing any threat to WWE. Nobody is. If they all combine together, like some kind of like weird brotherhood, and every independent wrestling federation say we're all going to become one thing and we're going to fight, they still would not beat the WWE. So, with that being said, are you really doing a problem? You throwing a bone to everybody and saying make your event the event of the year for everybody? And meanwhile, you're the backbone of that event, WWE. You know what I mean? The World Wrestling Entertainment as a entity to be able to host the NWA World Champion, Nick Aldis against whoever, to have the Impact World Champion defend against whoever, ROH Championship, It's a place where wrestling, period, happens. That would be phenomenal and would be worth the price of admission. It would be worth buying the pay-per-view without having the network.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? That's my thing about that. Now, that will never happen. That will never happen. At least as long as Vince is still alive. That will never happen. But that would be my thing, that, like, you know, hey guys, I'll throw you a bone. I'll give you some airplay, but it's going to be under the WWE banner, obviously. You know, but boom, there you go. Now, granted, he had no problem having Smoky Mountain come in back in the day.
USWA.
ECW,
NWA.
Those were relationships that were formed under his father.
Right. NWA. Well, not Attitude Era. I'm referring to more when they brought Jim Cornette in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they had like the
Jeff
NWA,
Jarrett
and it was
the
like a
Rock and
little
Roll
faction.
Express.
They kind of like did it like, yeah, I know. They had it almost like a faction versus saying it was another promotion. So they kind of downplayed it, really. But they did provide exposure, you know, without any like kind of threat of saying, oh, well, yeah, if I expose them, they're going to take over. No, they're not going to take over. Stop it. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. There's too much money in this train going on. So, you know, my thing is, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of wrestling out there. And the point to this show is, hey, expose yourself to all. No, don't expose yourself.
Oh my God.
I said that wrong.
Wait a second now.
Edit.
Expose yourself.
Exposure. Expose yourself.
Hello, lady.
Hello. I can't do the sexual chocolate song. You know, but
Let's go for more of the Val Venus, but okay.
yeah, right. Or Velveteen Dream, the way he's going nowadays in NXT. But the thing is, there's so much wrestling out there. Look and see what's out there. And my point to it is don't let the WWE raise the bar to what you want. You raise your own bar to what you want, because you're the fan. After all, if it wasn't for fans, none of this would happen. We wouldn't have a reason to talk about anything on the show. WWE would not make any money, etc. So I say to you, the fans, raise your bar, look and see what you have. On this show right now, we have James Gore, who dates back to a lot earlier times in wrestling, and the wrestling that he watched, and the wrestling, not that he's like 100 years old, I don't want to make him sound like that. He's like, oh, don't worry about it, it's all good.
When Wildcat McGurk.
You know, he's like, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, what he watched is a hell of a lot different than the old stuff that we watched. Mm-hmm. Right or wrong, you know what I mean? You're only talking about a span of 20 years,
especially
or
we're
10
talking
years.
about a point where there was no theme music whatsoever.
Yeah,
there was the audience pop when they saw whoever it was come out. A good example was when, which I still think is probably one of the greatest angles ever. Takes you back to the old Bruce Lee film days when Zbyszko turned on his teacher, San Martino. Mm-hmm. And when they used to fight each other, there's no theme music. It used to be like they were surrounded by cops and regular security.
Yeah.
They needed to be.
Yeah. And when Zbyszko came out, the whole place went crazy. That means Bruno's coming out, so they're all standing now. There's no music. They're all standing now. They're all popping. And I'll tell you something else too. Way back in the day, getting off that subject real quick. George the Animal Steel.
Yeah.
When he was a heel with a manager, because he was managed by all three at different times, Wizard, Blassie, and Albano. But when he came out, he would chase literally sections of people away out of the sections. He was like start climbing into the section. That entire section got up and ran. It was completely empty. Completely empty. Those were the days I'm talking about.
Kind of reminds me of when the Islanders would come out.
Yeah.
And they would scare the hell out of people as they're coming. Like, what in the world are they going to do? And then, you know, the Bushwhackers, because then they had the sardines and they were eating.
Oh, God, I know.
They would cram sardines down their mouths. Then they would lick the fans. And if you were unlucky enough to not be able to get away, It was hilarious.
We did a show. It was in New York, New Rochelle, New York, and I forget the promoter. And he had it was Killer Kowalski there as a special guest, and he had the Bushwhackers there as a special guest. They weren't going to wrestle, and the main event I think was Jake Roberts. This is when he was at the highlight of his debaucherism. You know what I mean? Like he was really he was drunk when he got to the ring. It was a really sad thing at that point, but he looked It was horrible. It was horrible, but the Bushwhackers came out to be like the special guest commentators. So they did their and they did their thing, you know. And my wife was with me, and I was filming ringside, and she was holding the battery packs. And it was one of those things where, like, after the certain segment, I had to change batteries. That's why she was with me. And it was, I think it was Luke. I think it was Bushwhacker Luke. He came over, he's like, ah. He looked at my wife and he goes, ah, and he does this thing and he opens his mouth. She said, motherfucker, you better get the hell away from me. Because she's like, I'm not going to get licked by anybody, let alone you. I'll never forget it because, like, I'm trying to stay quiet because, like, you can hear me on the mic and you hear that come through on the videotape. It was funny. It was very funny. But, yeah, it's a crazy thing, and like I said, just you watch this stuff. It's so good. There's so much stuff that's out there if you can watch it. And I know the network actually is putting on some older content now, so that's something to check out as well. We are out of time, so what I want to do is get all the plugs in right now. You can check us out on Facebook at That Way Cool Wrestling Show. You can check us out on Twitter at TWCWS Podcast. I had to write it down because I stay blank when I say it. And then obviously it's thatwaycoolwrestlingshow.com. Check out James Gore's page, which is Respect Thy Wrestling Forefathers. A lot of great stuff on there. There's people on there. You have a lot of good admins that put up a lot of historic stuff. This date in wrestling.
Yes, I do. I'm very thankful that they are members of the group.
They do a lot. You'll get some really cool things where it's like this day 33 years ago. Boom, 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 boom. And if they have content to post, they'll post it too, which is cool. Right. So you get to see that kind of stuff. And you know, if you're a young fan and you listen to the show, go check that stuff out. I'm telling you, you will like it. You will like it. You will be like, wow. Because it's a completely different thing, and wrestling was just so awesome back then, and it's why we still watch today.
I mean, not for nothing. I am a member of that group.
Yeah,
and
I am too.
It is a who's who of who did what, when, where, why, and whatever. And it's a great thing to be able to interact with a lot of the guys. And, well, I'm not just saying guys, but ladies and gentlemen who are a part of that group.
Yes.
Who either done it or seen it.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. It's a community within itself that has opened up a lot of channels to people to learn more, to experience more. And
I mean, not just as a fan, but as a worker.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're in the business or just not in the business, but I mean, just to know. And here's the cool thing, too. The people that do align themselves with that group, and I'm talking about the talent, be it old or new, they are talent that really want to engage with their fans.
Yes.
So if you're looking to sit there and say, I want to be able to say something to so-and-so and really and have him see it and this and that, check that page out. Get on that page. I'm telling you, because it's one of those things where, like you said, it's a community. It's not just a like page that just has anonymous post and you never heard from, and you can say stuff and no one's going to like it. You know what I mean? Like,
figure it this way. With everybody that we have in the group, and you get birthday announcements for members of the group, and they actually respond. Yeah. Because they care. Yeah. Nobody in that group is in there because they don't care about wrestling, don't care about the business, don't care about each other, whatever. They're there because they want to reach out.
And let me really, because we have to go, but let me propose this out there, put this out there. There's no lean. There's no political affiliation in any way, shape, or form of one versus another. They're not WWE fans. They're not NWA fans. They're not New Japan fans. They are wrestling fans.
Right.
Period. End of story. And these are guys that just like everything about wrestling. And see, that's the thing. People like James, people like myself and Mark, and well, what's Mark? But but LeGrand and even Charles, we like the sport for the sport. What are you going to offer me? You know what I mean? And that's why I check out these indies, and that's why I check out these shows, because it's wrestling that I'm looking at, you know, above anything else. So check that out. Check us out. Hit us up on all those social medias and go to the website, because we have new stuff going up there. You can check out the shows there. We're in season 3. So you got season 1 and 2 that you can check out. Season 1 is in video format, so you get to see our beautiful mugs. But until next time, we're once again, special thanks to Canon Entertainment. Canon Entertainment Studios is where we record this in. So until next time, we will see you at the match. Goodbye, everybody.
The proceeding was produced by DJB Productions. Go to www.thatgreatcoolwrestlingshow.com.